the Mobile Workforce Podcast. Industry insights, construction perspective.
Hello, I am Mike Merrill, your host of the Mobile Workforce Podcast, and today we're excited to have one of our awesome customers, Vantix Electric, on the podcast. They brought 18 people from their crew here, so we're really excited to give this a whirl and see what kind of fun we can have. But more importantly, we're just excited to learn from them and see what we could do to help share some of the goodness that they've learned in their years in business that might be able to bless you all. So with that, let's give it a listen and go from there. All right, so let's just start out. How do you define effective communication within an organization? What have you all learned, and what do you think has helped you to be better communicators?
That's a tough question. I think everybody in this room, including the owner or the podcast director here, communication is a tough and difficult task to master and conquer. I think we all struggle with that. I think any failure within a project, we can typically point probably 99 to 95% of the time is due to communication. Whether it's internally from estimating team to the management team, whether it's from the GC to our team, whether it's the architect, engineers communicating, and typically, the idea the owner has in mind being communicated effectively. You want a 10-story building, you get a 12-story building. There's a million different reasons why things don't really work out, but if you really drill down to it, typically it's communication. There's performance failures, which we're just as guilty of as anybody else, but at the end of the day, it's, I think, communication.
Yeah, you could drill back to where the communication broke down. Absolutely. That caused that failure, right?
I mean, if you take a poor performer, the communication is not taking the time, getting to the job site, or spending enough time with that particular individual. I mean, it's any number of things, but it always drills down to communication. If the plan is ineffective, did you communicate with that individual about his plan not being effective?
So can you think of any situations specifically, maybe where you've had a communication breakdown and maybe what you did to solve it or improve it to not run into the same issue in the next project?
There's always lessons learned. I always go back to the same thing when I first left the home and 18 years old, I just thought shit paper ended up on the spool, right? You never thought as an 18-year-old kid you'd go buy toilet paper. It just magically appeared there. When you wash your clothes, it just in the closet.
So can you think of an example where there was a communication breakdown and maybe how you identified it, and then how'd you solve it so that didn't happen again on the next one?
So going back to my original statement about being 19 years old, living out for the first time, you just assume the toilet paper showed up on the rolls, the dishes got washed, the laundry was done, you just went to bed every night, and everything happened with some magical elves at the middle of the night. If you wrote down everything that ever went wrong, every individual situation, you would have a directive or a manual that would be so long, a person would have to spend your entire lifetime to read about every situation. So is it possible to pass along knowledge of a particular situation to a group of people and say, if you have this particular set of circumstances, this particular set of people, this particular foreman, these particular helpers, you do X, Y, Z, and you'll be successful? Well, that's not the real world. Nothing like that exists. It's an ebb and flow, and things change. You're not going to see things in the same light as you did 10 years ago, 5 years ago, one job. So communication is a difficult thing. Lesson learned is a difficult thing. It's, hey, when this kind of thing happened on the job, this is what we did to kind of eradicate it. So there's not any one thing that you could say. If you do these set of circumstances with this certain thing, it's so finite, it's never going to happen.
It's not going to go perfectly.
Yeah, it's never going to go perfectly.
Which is another, what I like about that, though, honestly, that is communication. If you acknowledge that up front and say to your teams, hey guys, here's the deal. I know everything's not going to go perfectly, but we've worked really hard and diligent on our estimates, and we've gone through these strenuous processes to make sure that you can be successful And as long as you're putting in your best effort and you communicate when there's issues, we can at least turn this into the best project we possibly can, which is the goal, right?
Yeah, I think to that point, we really hyper focus on work ethic and grit. Grit is kind of the determining factor for the company. I think everybody in this room understands what grit is, what's required to have grit. I think that can overcome some of the communication failures. Not completely 100%, but if you're going to put in a hard day's work, create a plan, and try to execute it, you're going to be successful. And that's what we look for. We look for the folks that are going to put in the 110%. Can you find those right off the rip? No. It's a process.
It also goes into like everyone, pretty sure the majority of our company knows that they could kind of meet up and down the chain of command. So coming to the PM or the John or even myself with any issues or anything that they could like foresee on a project or with an estimate, even if it's a little ball busting, like we're all pretty open as far as communication goes.
Just to schedule communication as part of the job. When the job starts off, you know that there's going to be communication week to week or month to month. Just schedule it and plan for it, and know that that's going to be, 4 or 8 hours per week that you're going to dedicate to communication.
I love that. So what technology tools is Vantix Electric using to help make sure that communication happens in a scheduled manner and is organized?
Teams is the obvious answer. Smartsheets is another big piece.
Okay.
Smartsheets is used across project management side. I don't know, from the finance side, if y'all are using it.
We have our kickoff sheet, so.
Yeah, finance has got a little bit of involvement on that, but from an internal side, I don't know if they'll use it a whole lot.
We are getting that kicked off and starting to do that. So Vantix to be able to help us with that.
Yeah, from our niche, we're using it intimately, and that's really kind of derived towards Blake is sitting in the background, was originally hired to help me with my little niche, and all the information was in this big noodle of mine. Yes, it is a 10-gallon hat.
That's a big noodle.
But it was all downloaded right here, and he's like, he would have to come to me constantly. How do I get it out of here? How do you get it? I mean, we talk about putting in Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, email, calendars. We finally went to our IT company, and it was Smartsheets is I guess Excel on steroids that you create reports out of, that you can build dashboards out of. So it's still kind of an infancy stage, and we're just starting to get a grasp of its ability, but it's a powerful tool. And that's the struggle that I think we have internally in my career, is you've got all these different project management softwares, but they're all driven towards what this particular person wrote that software on, what their thought process of project management is. Project management, I mean, from Joe to Casey to Gary to Charles to Blake to Jeff, you go around the room, Tyler, I mean, everybody has a different mindset, a different set of experiences, a different set of knowledge, and that's how they develop their mindset. So their own methodology of managing their jobs. Tyler, and I love him, but he is OCD as hell, and if it don't line up perfectly, it ain't gonna work, right? Right. You got Joe, who could be all over the place. A little bit, Joe and I kind of cut from the same cloth. We can fish and swim in the murky waters. Tyler needs it clear. He needs to make sure he's not stepping on it. And
it's got to be shallow.
Yeah, it's got to be shallow. We don't want to draft. But he wants to make sure wherever his step is, it's sure footing, right?
I was trying to think it was sure. Was that a short term?
Tyler wants to make sure where he puts his foot is a sure footing. Where Joe and I, if we dive off, we dive up. We'll try to figure out how to get our head up more. So everybody's a little bit different. So, project management software is driven to one kind of person, one set of circumstances. That's the beauty behind Smartsheets, is each person can kind of put their personalized information into it and get whatever they're trying to get out. So,
Now, can you think of any scenarios where you realize, man, I'm glad we had smart sheets, or I'm glad we had this process, or where you feel like it kind of saved your bacon on something?
I think more from the foundation side, we could probably speak to that more.
Mm-hmm.
The foundation is really giving us the keys to the kingdom, per se, right? And we're still, I wouldn't call it infancy. We're walking. We're starting to understand it. We're not quite running yet. But foundation gives us keys to what's going on with the project without being day in, day out micromanaging the job. And it's purely, I mean, this, and not put the warning sign on it, or whatever the hell you want to call it, but if you're not a data-driven person or a numbers person, it's not going to make sense to you. So if you're a numbers person, you can live by the numbers. I mean, Casey Sizepoint, you determine pretty quick that starting a job, if labor was leading materials, you had a particular problem. Is that foreman is either spinning his wheels, not getting a whole lot accomplished? And again, it goes back to what I said earlier. You know, if you have a particular project that's labor heavy, not material heavy, it looks right. If you go to a job that's 50-50 or 25-75, labor being, or materials being the higher number or the equal number, if you're leading with labor, you've got a problem right off the rip. So there's information you can get out of foundation software that you can digest, devolve, go on the job site and make your recommendation. But we get, I think, more communication information out of foundation than we do anywhere else.
That's awesome, because of course you've got, like you mentioned, different roles, different people, different strengths, different weaknesses. To be able to leverage that kind of value out of one system is pretty unique and pretty awesome to hear. How many people in your organization would you say on a day-to-day are impacted by foundation software and what you're doing in there?
For me, the simple answer for me is foundation is our one truth, or one source of truth. That's what we live by and breathe by. Joe and I, we walked away and I kicked away from the table because I love him dearly. But he and I are using Smartsheet, and it's a different niche, a shit ton of projects, a lot of information. Foundation, we could probably get out of it. We spend more time putting a lot more information where we can customize Smartsheets. But you've got to recognize a one source of truth and live by that.
If you're looking for better asset management, then you need WorkMax Assets. WorkMax Assets keeps your data stored in a central location. So as your team allocates equipment, tools, and resources, the rest of the crew is aware. Monitoring ROI has never been easier. Get WorkMax Assets now.
What are you say?
Just the reporting aspect of it. I mean, we can, the reports we got to send to our field leadership, sort of give them a tracking report of where they are on their job, and each one of them has their own way of looking at that and having their own opinion where they're at and learning from it. Going from job to job to, how the team grew. So, I would say our leadership, or even see how we could improve, because the numbers don't add up, and there's either something here or something on the estimating side that should be showing,
Yep. Yeah, what's the running joke?
I don't miss anything. That's about it.
Estimating messed that up. Yeah. Estimating messed that job up. Estimating missed something.
Every mistake starts.
They get blamed. Okay.
So they're the reason. But you dive into it, do the job site, figure it out. It may or may not be that direction.
Well, this is where a product like WorkMax or a single source of truth where data is collected and managed from the field perspective can come into play, because now you're feeding real data in real time to that Bible, to foundation, to your single source of truth. And so future estimates are based off of real results of current projects. So as you continue to move forward, you now have an opportunity to clean some of that up to where you're a little more accurate, right?
I think the biggest bridge any contractor has to gap is the field final product to estimate, right? The pillar in between is the project manager, and he's just reacting to whatever is going on. But if you're not getting feedback from the field to the estimating team is going to react to what they're saying. But estimating team can give a little bit of input of this is my direction. This is what I thought I was going to do on the job. They live in the real world and really accomplish what's going to happen. But if you don't bridge that gap, this is what we did and this is what we used, the estimating team's never going to get better.
Back to communication. Right?
It's huge communication. And that's our biggest, I think, hang up that we're trying to gap. It's a different piece of software. I'm not going to talk about it right now. We can have an offline conversation about it. But I think there's some things out there that you could bridge that gap, but it's not easy. That's a huge task to tackle. And I think we're a year or two away from doing that ourselves. I think we have the ability to make that happen. And all you really want is what happened, what'd you do, why did we bid it this way, and that real conversation. You know, I think after we create that bridge and that information, the sky's the limit for us. You know, we're really kind of limited to what they're able to do, what kind of profit they can put into on, and these guys are just reactive to what they're doing at the field. And they got a job to do, you know. Yeah. We just say, we got 100 hours, and you got to stop on 100 hours. And the job takes 1,000.
Finish.
What are we going to tell the customer? You go, sorry, we only had 100 hours. We're out. I'm out. So bridging that gap of where that disconnect is at is a huge thing on my to-do list.
So are there any projects where you, and you don't have to say specifically by name, but any projects where you feel like, again, you solved that really well and it ended up being just a great win for y'all?
I was going to say the most successful jobs that we had time to plan. And unfortunately, in the world we live in, we don't. Sometimes there's people out there that just don't give you the time.
I have a couple of the ones that we just got done that were kind of quick paced that involved a lot of communication. I think both of them were successful.
And I could play devil's advocate because you got general contractors that are trying to make money too. They're in it for making money. Yeah. They're gonna hold out to the last minute, try to find somebody that can just undercut you by $10, $10,000, $100,000, whatever the number is, right? You got different levels of general contractors depending on what they want to do. And they wait till the ninth hour, they get you out there, now you're being reactive. And it's, I mean, we got one job right now that we knew about, we told we were going to do it. It was up to this person. And all the meanwhile, unbeknownst to us, their demo complete. Now they're building walls. Now they get one wall side. We're talking about we get on the job, we had a plan, and there's other underlying circumstances that happen with that job, but we got to the job, and the job's one-sided, built, ready to roll, and we're like, oh, guys.
Well, the communication is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
You're going to do one for at a time. You're going to...
And what are you going to do? You're going to bitch and moan and whine about this guy not communicating with you?
Yeah.
What is that going to get you?
Yeah.
You just got to react and get the job.
You're not going to get the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that was a situation that they were drug into because the client we're working for is fantastic, pays well, really wants everybody to be successful, knows how to communicate, knows how to schedule. This is just we'll call it bad job. It's not a bad job yet, but it could have been better.
So obviously, I mean, you are running a successful operation. You guys doing well out in the marketplace. You're thriving. You're a large company, so
we consider a large company.
Well,
I mean, to see how many people we have work. It's only this room right here.
Yeah, right.
And their revenue and everything.
Yeah. You know, I guess, you know, it's all relative, right? But what you're accomplishing is not easy. And
certainly not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, right. So you're special in some way or another, right? In order to be doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
I would say, I mean, if you're using you as a Vantix as a whole, yeah, we're special. I think we are.
We talk a lot about.
I agree.
We talk a lot about what we do wrong.
Well, it's easy to focus. It's just like the news, right? The news is all daisies and sunshine, and no one would ever pay attention. No one's like, well, I'm going to watch the news. Everything's great. And then they're going to talk about all the bad stuff. And rightfully so, we got to focus on what we're doing wrong. Yeah. I try to remind the team, everything we're doing wrong, a lot of good things right. Not to forget that, you know. Applaud your accomplishments. Be happy where you're at.
do you do a good job of celebrating wins? Do your team feel like you do enough of that?
We're really good at celebrating. I still think you know, and a shock case, but that's might be coming down the line, you know.
Yes, one of those unfortunate things that happens as you continue to grow.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of lose that ability to have that little small town, whole family feel. But the thing I struggle with is I want something that has the ability to transcend generations, but not so large that you become a number.
I think we do a good job of trying to make our people feel like our team members, where they don't feel like a number. I think we're mindful as we grow to try to keep from our people, our team members, from feeling like they are a number.
Well, yeah,
People come in and interview, and that's why they feel like they are a number where they're at currently. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the reason they make the change.
We work hard, we're successful, we play hard. We all know that what we do is stressful from internal leadership to external leadership. That's the gap I kind of talk about bridging you. You're not going to convince a first year that's 18 years old that what we're doing is straight. Yeah, they don't even know their ass will hole around.
Right. So when you look at the overall percentages of different types of work you do, I mean, would you say most of it's new construction and commercial, or how much of it's service work? I mean, what other complexities do you have in your business that you're addressing and solving for with software?
Software related, no. I mean, I think the software, if you set it up right, you can do any piece and parcel within the construction industry. For us individually, I think we would all love to move towards an out of ground job because you just have enough time to plan and react and execute. The real world, I would say that we're probably 10 to 20% revenue out of the ground. Everything else is pretty much remodel, second generation, reactive kind of work.
Do you feel like you have a growth trajectory still in the market today? Is backlog drying up a little bit? How do you feel like market conditions?
I mean, you tell me, Jacqueline, too. I mean, this is more finance side, but I think we have a backlog, and the pressure's there pretty steady. Mm-hmm. I think we're all concerned going into an election year this year.
Sure.
There's some things that may slow down. 2020 was the last election year, and that was a weird set of circumstances surrounding that. So I don't know if you can completely rely on that as the.
So far, the bids are still coming in. So
backlog. I mean, we're acutely and it rightfully so. The software is providing us with that backlog is per person. Who's potentially slipping. Short-term backlog versus long-term backlog. We can divide it up however we want to divide it up. Yeah. We can understand what potential pitfalls we have. So from us, we're acutely aware. And then backlog is, for me, a tough thing to say, okay, we're great on backlog because it's trailing and it's not accurate because a lot of times you're not going to report what's actually going on the job because it's construction. It may be going great 75% of the time, and then you find out that you've been putting in the wrong thing in the wall the whole time. You got to rip everything out. So when do you start really reporting the wins towards the end of the job? Rightfully so. Big losers are easy to identify. You just put them on the front end when you find out they are, and you fix them and adjust to it. But the big ones are hard. So your backlog that you think you have could be ate up real quick, one job finished. So for me, backlog is a number. There is some truth to it, but you got to kind of take it at face value. You can't take it as the gospel. But I think acutely that we look at every month in our executive meeting is backlog. How much pressure we got.
If you don't have the manpower and find in that power to grow, the way you can grow is better projects.
Yep.
So we're trying to do both. I think we've done both.
Organically, it's way too slow if you want to keep the growth curve that we've got. Yeah. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head. If there's any stifling effect to our growth, I think the product we sell, the people we have, we can pretty much do anything we want to do.
And you can't do work you can't get to, right? All the resources.
You fit.
Are you always hiring? How often do you try and hire? Is there a flow to that?
Our biggest hang-up, I don't think, is the day-to-day electrician. Our biggest hang-up is leadership, field leadership. That's what makes and breaks the company. That's, from this side, and I'll look at us for as the office side. We can promise all we want to. Until the guy in the field, Charles, who just recently got promoted, where none of that, side, I guess, he's just entered it. Those guys can't perform. That means shit. It really doesn't. We promise the world, but those guys won't perform. We're not.
That's where the letter meets the road, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a differentiator. Those guys in the field turning the wrenches, making stuff happen, are the ones that continuously get us work. Do we get our foot in the door? Do we get we get a win? We get a project? Sure. But those guys don't perform. Doesn't mean anything. So that's, I think, our biggest hang up to growth. It's what we're looking towards. We're trying to find how we develop that, how we find it, how we do anything around that. When I started this thing, it was like, I got to get work. Work came pretty easy. It was like, I got to get project managers. Project managers, you can overload them because their job isn't overly complicated. Yeah. It grew to, you need people doing the jobs. You can't ask a guy that's installing work to do 10 different jobs across, 100 square miles of work. There's no way. He's not going to be successful. He's not going to be profitable. You're going to fail. So it kind of evolved into this thing like it's really the guys turning the wrenches in the field that really drive the company.
Yeah, and you mentioning leadership, that's interesting. I don't think I hear that enough. I think a lot of companies are focused on, and I hear it all the time, every trade show, we talked about meeting at NECA, and most of the guys I talk to, they're like, we see more bodies. I see more guys at the polls. I mean, it's almost like they'll take anybody they can get just to put people out on projects. And I think, like you do, that's the wrong approach, isn't it?
I think it's interesting because everything I read, I hear, the peer groups I'm involved with, they all understand leadership. Maybe it's a construction-based problem.
I think it is.
It could be. My background coming from the Marine Corps, that was drilled into me at 19 years old. And leaders are the ones that make things happen. So I've always been focused on that. It's what we preach and talk about. I think it's a common knowledge. You ask anybody in the room, with the exception of a handful that have only been with us for less than 12 months, understand and breathe what leadership is. It's important.
Get complete project visibility with WorkMax Insight. WorkMax Insight uses predictive metrics to measure trends in your project so you can know exactly where your project stands, how it is advancing, and what needs to be completed to stay on schedule. Get real-time project updates with WorkMax Insight today.
And that's part of what makes you guys special, because some companies are not as focused on leadership, and they're not in peer groups. They're not, when you mention peer groups, I know what those are, you know what those are, because we think that way, but there are companies out there that aren't being involved in plugging in. Yeah. They're trying to, keep their stuff secret and, fly under the radar, don't want anybody to know what they're doing. And yet, because of that, they don't have peers that are able to help them. They don't have companies they can joint venture on bigger projects on and expand. They're all worried about keeping their own stuff. And I think that's probably the wrong approach.
Well, it's kind of funny and something I preach too. I think what sells us on most candidates and anything else, it's not about what we can provide you. It's more about how can we help you grow? How can we take you to that next level? It's not just a professional growth step. It's, personal growth step. It's how do we broaden your career? We just had a guy leave today that's taking a job that he's going to make a shit ton more money and potentially have ownership in a company. Why would I prevent that guy from leaving? Yeah. Why would I make him feel bad for wanting to do something better for his family? We focus on how to improve people's lives. And if someone has an opportunity, it's kind of my mantra as an owner to give them the best package possible. And if someone's going to expand past that point, why would I be upset with them?
They could blame them.
We could try to guide them and teach them and, throw our 2 cents on it. But if these guys' mind made up needs to scratch that itch, scratch the itch.
Well, the beauty of that is that, and we hear this a lot too. I'm remembering a conversation I had with another customer of ours, K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing out of Dallas, Texas. They have a very similar approach. They build people, and people build the company. They're not trying to just grow the company, and people are just a number, like you mentioned earlier. And I think there's some commonalities, and I can see why they're successful, and you all are too. But when you empower and lift up those employees, even that decide they need to go pursue another opportunity, maybe, and I think this happens sometimes and maybe even often, that new opportunity won't shake out the way that they thought it was going to. And guess where they're going to come back to, and with more appreciation, and probably more like, okay, I need to maximize the opportunity with Vantix, like I was working on before, and maybe open up that communication more. And you can empower and help them to continue to grow, and they can share their aspirations. Maybe they really were after. Maybe they weren't doing a good job of communicating it, and it was easier to go look elsewhere instead of grow from within. Yeah, it's fascinating. I think back to some of the topic of the conversation. It sounds like you've got software tools, technology tools. You've got management style approach, leadership, trying to promote and help people grow internally, and that helps the company to be more successful. What are some other things that, without giving away too many of your secrets, what are some other things that you really believe in as a company, or mantras that help drive that ship? And what's your North Star?
Giving people the opportunities that they know that if they get to a certain goal, they're not pigeonholed to that. And that's what we talk about all the time. Like, if you want to come here, just be an electrician, we'll be okay with that. We don't want that for you. We'll be okay with that. If you want to make it to a foreman and you're okay with being a foreman, we'll be okay with that. Not happy, but we want to push you a little bit. I think just pushing people a little bit past their limits and showing them that they can do more than they expect of themselves. And it goes back to culture. It's something we're very proud of, and we hold near dear to our heart. You don't fit our mold or a resemblance of what we want to be. You don't have to be the guy that works an 80-hour work week and then want to go drink till 2 a.m. That's me. It's not Jacqueline. Definitely no, it's not Gary. He's got a wife at home that he'd rather tend to go drink till 2 a.m. You don't have to be this mold of have 80 hours and drink till 2 a.m. I don't care what it's more about grit. Drinking till 2 a.m. is it grit? It's having fun, right? The 80-hour work week or the 60-hour work week, or doing the job till the job was done. The work hard, play hard that we talk about in the office. It's important. We all do this stuff, and it's monotonous, it's painful, and it's regurgitated sometimes. There's got to be a plus side to it, right? You just don't want to live that life of just pain after pain after pain after pain. There's got to be a plus side.
We thought we would have a few of the team members from Vantix Electric come and share a little bit of their experience in their role and some of the software solutions that they're enjoying and that help make their job and their life easier at work. So go ahead.
Well, I'm APAR, the accounting team. We just hired somebody else for AP, so I'm training her right now. So it's pretty cool. I love what I do, and I'm excited. I'm having a baby soon, so I'm going on maternity leave, but I'm definitely coming back.
Okay.
And then probably starting a new role. So.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. And tell us what software you're using and how that plays a part in your role.
Oh my gosh. We use right now Outlook. That's our main source of communication right now. So that's typical emails and everything. And we also use a lot of Foundation. I live in Foundation.
Okay.
That's where we're at 24/7, entering invoices, responding to vendors, through email, and just, finding out reports on what their questions are, and getting reports for Jacqueline and John for their meetings and everything.
So what do you enjoy most about Foundation, and what parts of it help you really have an easier time at work?
Definitely the reporting side. I just recently the last conference that I went to, a foundation, I learned so much. I use reports now that I had no idea that existed. So that was really cool. But definitely like the reports on finding out my reconciliations of what invoices I'm missing, what, the vendors need from us, depending on the situation. And what's really cool is that we just started a new software called Kojo that literally integrates with Foundation. So that's really cool too. So yes.
Well, that's awesome. So you're using not only their tools, but also other partners that they've integrated with as well.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. Well, how about you? Thank you.
So my name is Blake Howard, the service manager in our service department over here. As far as the tools or modules that we use the service dispatch module. And it's really like John mentioned earlier, like we're at the walking stage right now. So when I first come in, we were creating our own job numbers externally and then entering them into Foundation and dispatching from there. I've been sitting in with Joan with y'all who has been training us on. And so we've learned that we can, create the job numbers within Foundation. I can dispatch it to the technicians. Everything's all in place, because before I would write a proposal externally, send it to the customer, and it's always in a file explorer on the desktop.
Okay.
So our service coordinator, I would have to call her and say, hey, go into this file explorer, look at this customer. Here's your quote. Now dispatch that to the technician. Whereas now we started using the inner quotes module within service dispatch. And so I can just create that quote, and the quote number is logged. Everyone that has that module can log in and see where it's at. We can put it as pending, unassigned, completed, billed, whatnot. And so we're able to keep track of it that way. And then also say, write 100 quotes to the customer. They've only given us 2 jobs. I got to run those reports to see, is this customer even worth keeping on chasing after? Either I'm all over the planet to look at the reports to see if what work they're giving us. And we can also look at like the profitability of customers, profitability of the work order dispatches.
So you're prioritizing everything based on what you're managing within that dispatch module within Foundation.
Yeah. I'm probably about 85% there. Everything pretty much running out of that module.
And everybody's managing that from the same system, and you're not trying to different data silos and different offline things that people don't have access to.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. So what did you do before that? What were you doing in the past, and how is this better?
Well, we were always using Foundation, but we really started diving into investing in what Foundation can do.
Okay.
So since I've been here, we've had Foundation. We've been using it. We really started diving into what each module does, what each system within Foundation can do.
And did you go to Foundation College? Like, was that what you were at? Was Foundation College?
I think so. It was the one that was in Orlando.
Yes.
So,
Foundation College.
Yes. Yeah.
It's good stuff, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I learned so much from that. I can't wait to learn more here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
both of you.
absolutely.
All right. Well, we've sure appreciated having you all on the podcast today. It's been a lot of fun, very insightful, and I think you've shared some good nuggets of wisdom that our other listeners and customers will be able to enjoy and hopefully plug into their operations a little bit and learn from your successes as well. Is there anything in closing that you'd like to mention or to share before we wrap up today?
The one thing we didn't talk about is WorkMax, and whether it works or not, we're in those kind of infancy stages, but I'm excited about that because we want our guys to do daily reports. We want our guys to do toolbox stocks. We want our guys to clock in and clock out daily. And with WorkMax, we get all those things into one. So right now we've got 2 pieces of software that's accomplishing that. We're hoping to move to WorkMax. It's 1. So we're excited about that.
Full circle data.
Yeah. It goes back to that bridge earlier. Field to estimating is we're trying to, 1, are we installing what we're estimating, right?
Yeah.
2, one thing I want to try to capture is the leading KPIs, which I don't think really truly exist because it's all trailing information. But we're trying to break down our estimates into simpler, 5 to 10 steps on a project, and we can know by step 1 or 2 if we're fit. Right now, we don't know until we're 60 or even 70% of the way through that potentially have a failure. Outside of some of the stuff that you kind of discovered on the front end, but even that doesn't tell the whole story, because you got to go spend time analyzing,
dig it out,
and still gut feel, which we're hoping will provide a little bit more closure to that.
Why is it kind of just seeing what McCormick can provide within foundations as far as trackability and feedback on the real-time data?
Yeah, I'm most excited about McCormick. One, tracking hours of what these guys are working, because we don't know what the estimate team is really putting in. We don't know if they need the extra individual or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Plus, it's the database that Foundation uses. We wanted to figure out how many rewirements we've estimated in the last 12 months. You can really get that information out of it. So the reporting aspect of it, we haven't even started to understand.
Well, the good thing is it sounds like you got a handle on your focus in these different areas. There are a few irons in the fire, but they are the right irons. And you're, like you say, all the way from field to office to estimate, what you're actually building. You got all the key components, and they're all under one foundation, group of family companies. So I think you're going to be in good shape as you get these things rounded out. All right. Well, thank you all. Appreciate your participation and your insights today. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for joining us for the Mobile Workforce Podcast by Foundation Software. To hear more episodes, visit us at workmax.com/Mobile Workforce Podcast, or subscribe to the Mobile Workforce Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. And if you like the show, be sure to leave a 5-star review, share with your colleagues, and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Mobile Workforce Podcast.